Hello and good morning, my Patreon peeps, patrons. Thank you so much for your support. This is my monthly forecast for January 2021. I'm mainly going to talk about, of course, the moon makes lots of aspects throughout the month. I'm really not going to talk about the lunar aspects because they move about so quickly and it would end up kind of being a very long recording and probably be kind of boring in a sense. But so I'm going to just kind of talk about just more like the challenging aspects, which are the conjunction, the opposition, and the square, and where they're kind of showing up in the sky. On the 4th of January, we started with a Mercury and Pluto conjunction. So that's going to be very interesting. That's things like kind of working on the background where, what's been going on this week here in the United States is the elections in Georgia. So, trying to find ways to manipulate people. That's a Mercury Pluto aspect. How do we go about manipulating others to see things the way we want them to see them? That's very much a question in life, right? So then on the Wednesday, the 6th of January, which is today, Mars is moving into Taurus. It's going to be very interesting. Mars is really more about focusing and moving forward. Taurus is kind of about being set. So, it might feel a little bit like a little bit frustration. Taurus wants things its way. So does Mars. So in that sense, they kind of align with one another. So I like to think that Taurus kind of needs a little bit of time and needs a little bit of space sometimes to be able to decide what it wants. So during this time, maybe it's good to, check to see what your emotional desires are, how you're going about doing things and whether it's the right way to do it. With an impractical Taurus, it's about relationships. Maybe it's a good time to see about working on your relationships, bringing flowers to your love, doing some chores around the house, helping out with things in a way that you usually don't show up. All those things can be really helpful. Then on Friday the 8th, as we know, Mercury goes into Aquarius. We just had a talk, Marilyn LeBlanc and myself do a talk called Deep Dives with New Perspectives, if you want to look for it on YouTube, or you can click on it through my website. So Mercury goes into free-minded and humanitarian-oriented Aquarius. And one of the themes that's going to be coming up in a sense, and we talked about this, is this image of a jilted loverness, and it's appearing at the door with flowers and only being answered by the maid. And how I perceive that is Trump. Trump's the love affair that Trump has been perceiving with the American people and with everyone around him is shifting. And the question is going to be how that's going to play out over these next few weeks during this period. Then we have Venus moving into Capricorn. It's not its favorite sign. Capricorn is a little more cold and calculating. Venus doesn't really kind of like that sense, but Venus in Capricorn is really about seeking status and seeking a certain stability and reaching certain things, creating means of value, right? Dating someone maybe who is worth more financially than yourself or energetically than yourself, and finding ways to see that reflected in ourselves, because that's really kind of what the key is with when we project things out into the universe. Then Mercury is going to be squaring Mars. It's going to be happening this evening, and when Mercury and Mars get together, we already have the Mars in Taurus. It's my sense is that it's this sense of kind of a push me pull you sort of a thing, or trying to drive with the emergency brake on. So how do we go about doing things in the right manner if we start getting activated, so to speak? If we get in an argument with someone, maybe taking a moment and stepping back and seeing what the truth of that is. It's a little bit, can be a little bit of an inflammatory time when Mercury and Mars get together, those two brothers, because they're really not known for having impulse control. Saturday the 9th, Mercury will then be doing a conjunction with Saturn in Scorpio, and actually in Aquarius. So this is father and son, right? Saturn's father and son Mercury are together. So what are the creative things you want to put out in the world? What is it that you want to do? And the 8th actually is more of a good day for planting, but on the 9th, it's kind of like, what kind of seeds are you planting? And a conjunction is a new birth, a new opportunity to see things in a different way, new terms of engagement. Saturn is all about rules and structures and foundations, and Mercury wants to know it has that, and it can go back and forth from that. But and so it's this, creative stability, create like having a workshop. setting up a something on a website, doing your one social blogging on the media. Those are all really well indicated here on Saturday the 9th. Then on Monday, the 11th of January, we have a Mercury conjunct Jupiter. Mercury moves on from Saturn, the father, to Jupiter, his brother, Zeus. These two are the tricksters. They like to play games, but in a sense, I like to think that underneath it, there's a little bit of a morality. So, you know, might be playing hard and fast with things. It could be gossip, to be honest. It could be great tales. I think what's going to be building up now, especially through the inauguration, is going to be, we're not done with Trump. I think there's going to be a lot more that's going to be showing up with him, playing out his drama as he steps away from the limelight, as he steps into another limelight and learns that he can actually still get the attention he needs, but maybe not the attention he has been getting. I think these things are all really well indicated. Good time for starting, you know, ideas, beliefs. Writing is really well indicated in this time period. You know, with Mercury and Aquarius, you know, what are your ideas? What are your thoughts? What's coming to you? Are things nagging you about things that need to be changed? There needs to be like a little bit of renovation. Aquarius is ruled by Saturn and Uranus. Saturn in the traditional sense, and Uranus in modern. And what I find with those two that's very important is Saturn, again, provides the foundation and the structure, and Uranus needs that structure to be able to go out and be able to come back in, weaving in these new ideas, coming in, taking an old idea and refashioning it in a way that makes it better. It's always well indicated. Then on the 12th, Tuesday, the 12th of January, we're going to have a Mercury-Uranus square. I'd be really careful. That's going to be happening in the morning. Just be really careful. It's in driving, in movement, in what you're saying with people. It's going from Uranus is in Taurus, Mercury is in Aquarius. So it could be about fixed ideas. It could be a kind of, again, an argumentative time, but also maybe an opportunity to open up a dialogue. Finding where there is that restriction. You know, sometimes people have a way of not wanting to talk about things. That's a very fixed sign to be about it. You know, Taurus, Leo, Aquarius. Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, and Scorpio. Any of those are really good at kind of getting set in their ways. And so sometimes things need to be kind of thrown in or kind of shaken up in a sense. And that's what this energy will be really great. Good opportunity to bring things forth. Then on Wednesday, the 13th of January, we have a Mars square Saturn. That's about rules and foundations, authority, right? I don't want to is really well indicated by this. How do we set up our rules? How do we set up our boundaries? How do we set up our structures? How do we go about doing things in the right way? Aquarius has everything to do with right human relationships. So when these planets are working together in the sign of Aquarius, it's about how are we achieving these things? Are we doing the right thing? It's not just about me as an individual or you as an individual, any of us as an individual. It's about each of us as individuals within the collective. We each are playing a role. Then actually Venus trine Uranus. I'm not talking too much about the trines in there, but that's a nice thing that's going to be happening in the evening. And so maybe that, you know, surprise yourself with one of the big themes going on right now is people are abstaining from drinking because there's been such an increase in drinking and substance usage during these times where people have been locked up in their homes in the quarantine basis. So finding ways to support yourself in new and beautiful ways is really well indicated. On Thursday, the 14th of January, Uranus goes direct in Taurus. That's going to make things feel like they're going to start speeding up again. Uranus going in a retrograde motion kind of slows things down a bit, allows for a lot of synthesis and integration to occur. But now as he moves into a stationing period going into direct, we're going to start feeling things kind of speed up again. And also on the 14th, the sun is going to be conjunct Pluto. Whenever the sun is almost, you know, wherever the sun appears in the sky is, of course, is like a big, huge spotlight. So when it's shedding the spotlight on Pluto or Hades, you know, god of the underworld, shadows appear. Things that we maybe don't really want to see or focus on or be conscious of are made dramatically clear and dramatically apparent. So with sun in Capricorn on Pluto, in Capricorn, we may have something revealed that we didn't really want to see. And with everything that's going on politically right now, maybe we might find the full extent of what the hacking was with Russia and our government agencies. It's going to be interesting to see what gets revealed. Then on Saturday, the 17th of January, we have a Jupiter square Uranus. So Uranus is the natural, or like I said, modern ruler of Aquarius. Jupiter is the esoteric or soul-centered ruler of Aquarius. So how are we not stepping up to the plate in the right way? How are we not being grand enough in our understandings of not only archetypes, but our individuality? As you've seen or heard me talk about before, there are these elements of mutant. You know, each of us is our own little mutant. We are our own little archetype. And how do we bring that forward? I think this is really a great time with that Jupiter square Uranus. It's a third quarter square. That means Jupiter's gone into a third quarter position, waning, meaning it's disseminating. It's going then back into a new phase with Uranus. So this is closing up. And the third quarter phase is about crisis in consciousness. You know, how do we find out what the truth is? How do we, you know, I didn't know that I didn't know is a really great thing. And with these two planets, especially with Uranus and Jupiter, it's these things that are a little larger than ourselves, a little more complex than what we're used to understanding. And how do we integrate that within ourselves? The 19th of January, Sun enters Aquarius. So, you know, this is beginning to be the setup for what's going to be happening on the 19th of February when we're going to be having a huge stellium, which is three or more planets or four or more planets in a sign. Saturn's going to move, Sun's moving in there. We already, of course, have Jupiter, Saturn, and Mercury there. So now we're getting four, which already is a stellium. On Inauguration Day, very interesting, Wednesday, the 20th of January, Moon moves into Taurus, which we aren't really talking about too much here with each of the moon phases, of course, but Mars and Uranus are conjunct. You know, whenever I see Mars and Uranus conjunct in a chart or transit by transit, one of them hitting the other one, all I can say is accident, and it's just an accident waiting to happen. These are happening in, of course, in the sign of Taurus, which is really fixed, having very set ideas. As we know, Trump is a Leo rising with his Mars conjunct his ascendant, makes him a maverick, and he it's going to be interesting to see if he's able to be pulled away. Mars is a major ruler of his chart, and with that being squaring conjunct Uranus, it's going to be interesting to see, you know, how maybe it's about the collective clearing up his understanding about what his personal needs are and him stepping away and stepping into a larger understanding about the role he played and allow that to be. We have a couple slightly quiet days until Saturday the 23rd, which we're going to have that Mars is then going to move into a square with Jupiter. You know, that can be a facing off of ideologies, maybe martial rules. I mean, one of the things going to happen on the 20th maybe is going to be a martial law. You know, he's going to try anything to stop losing his presidency. You know, he's sitting there with the roses at the doorstep to the American people, and he's found out the American people don't want him anymore. At least, you know, 50% of us don't. So it's a shock to his system. Then that Sun is going to be, so while that Jupiter and Mars squaring off is going on in the early morning hours of Saturday the 23rd, that Sun is going to then conjunct Saturn. So that's really beautiful. Saturn, like I said, is the traditional ruler of Aquarius. It loves rules, boundaries, structures, making sure the right thing is being done. But it can also be about kind of being a bit of a stick in the mud and, you know, being stuck in one's own ideology. So with the sun shining on it, I think, you know, it brings the opportunity for a new understanding of how to be humanitarianly related to one another. On Tuesday, the 26th of January, we have a Sun square Uranus. Sun moves up a little bit to square Uranus and Taurus. That's going to be shocking. You know, how do our ideologies not match up? Taurus also has to do with nature. So, what may we find out about climate change now that the censorship is being pulled off climate change? Now that we have an administration that is not only accepts the possibility of climate change, but understands that it is something that is affecting them, that if we don't act soon, that it's going to be having long-term effects for all of our, all of those who come after us. On Thursday, the 28th of January, we have a full moon. Then we have Venus conjunct Pluto, transformational love. What are our values? Maybe we might have to see about, the relationships we're in. Are they the right relationships? How many of us are in relationships that are about, that we've normalized the abuse that's gone on? Maybe we're with partners who don't treat us properly. Maybe we're with partners who are either emotionally or physically abusive, or just actually don't support us in who we are and who we really want to become. And we need to either see if that person can show up and change the ways they're treating us, or whether we need to move on. That's, really well indicated. Again, that's that sunlight on Pluto. It's bringing up that, well, this is Venus on Pluto, sorry. This is bringing, Venus has to do with our values and, what's important to us. So it's about our relationships. And maybe it's about losing something that is of value. Something that's taken away. Look up the myth about Persephone. That's a really good story here with those two. Then that Sun conjuncts Jupiter. Jupiter is the esoteric ruler of Aquarius. Sun and Jupiter have a very wonderful sense in that they are the two largest bodies in our solar system, right? The Sun, of course, is the largest. Jupiter is the largest planet. When these two get together, this is really quite a good blessing. So maybe, this might be a good opportunity for an increase of understanding that we're all brothers and sisters here on the planet, that we're all representative of the great rainbow expression of humanity. On the 30th of January, Mercury goes retrograde in the sign of Aquarius. So that's going to give us a great opportunity to review things, to see the ways we're projecting ourselves maybe online, or maybe there might be issues with solar flares going on and the inability to connect online, issues with the cloud, issues maybe with Zoom's not working, or social media, or data being lost or breached. These are all possibilities with Mercury retrograde in Aquarius. I want to thank you so much for joining me. That's the month. It's really setting up the theme for the year. As you can tell, this Mercury retrograde in Aquarius is then going to be joined by 2 more Mercury retrogrades throughout the year in the other 2 air signs. So there is a considerable reworking of how we relate to one another. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please invite your friends to be Patreon patrons for me, and they will be able to receive this topic. If you are liking how this looks, or if you just want to give me some feedback on what you like about this, or maybe some ways in which you'd like to see it done a little bit differently, I'm open to feedback, because I'm here to support you as you are here supporting me. Thank you so much and have a great day.